Hey, Michael Bowen here, Florida Man Rides. All right, so out of shits and gigs, my dad wanted to do a compression test on his boat. And I thought, just for shits and gigs, since we got the compression tester out, we got the air hose out, let's go ahead and do one on mine as well. Found a dead cylinder. Cylinder number 3 was dead. You take it, pull the prop around, got the hose on the cylinder, nothing. I had to put the hose in my mouth. That's what she said. Put the hose in my mouth to find what cylinder I was on. This thing was completely dead. Bought the cylinder off, took it up to Plant City Engine Shop. Big shout out to the guys at Plant City Engine Shop. Their turn time was great. It was faster than I was ready for it. But yeah, they got it pulled off to me, and yeah, I'm about ready to put it back on. Let me show you what we had going on though. All right, so this here is the old cylinder, my cylinder. All right, so there's my cylinder. I pull it off, run it up to Plant City Engine Shop. I pulled it off, it was pretty dark. So I run it up there, and then, right before I'm ready to run it in to the shop, I see this crack. See that crack right there? It goes down into the cylinder, all right? And it comes out, and it's right there, and you could see it between those two cooling fins. It was blowing exhaust gas out. Now, on an airboat, that's really no big deal. On an airplane, it's a little bit bigger deal because you got exhaust gases escaping into the cowling. That's a fire hazard. But on an airboat, no real big deal. But the big deal is my exhaust valve had come on the seat for the exhaust valve. I'd lost it. So that's where all the gases were. I couldn't get a good compression test because all the gases were leaking past the exhaust valve and the rings. Most of it was the exhaust valve though. Rings you can let ride a little bit until the cylinder, drops pretty low in the spectrum, like, 30 pounds over 80 pounds. If it's all rings, you can sort of live with it. But once it starts getting into a valve, you really don't want to go below 60 over 80. Anything below that, you got to make a judgment call, and you got to get that thing out. The sooner you get it done, the sooner you get the valves reseated, the better it is for the cylinder. You don't want to let it go too far because then you get, you can cause damage. You may lose the piston if, something comes loose. If the seat comes loose and starts dangling around inside the cylinder, when it's running, then you can lose the piston as well as the cylinder. So you don't want to let it go too far. All right, so here's the new piston. Plant City Engine Shop got me hooked up. I had them do the cylinder as well as the the piston as well as the cylinder. New ring set. And I like to let the engine shop do this ring set. That way, because you got it individually, you're supposed to put the rings in there, take them down. I forget where it is. I think it's like an inch from the bottom of the barrel. And you got your feeler gauge, and you're checking the feel gauge for each one of your rings. And I forget what the exact limits are because I don't like doing them, so I don't do them. And in the aircraft shop, we don't do them either. If we can avoid it, we let the engine shop do it. If we have to do it, we can do it, but it's one of those things that we got to go to the book to know how to do it because we just don't do them that often. All right, so I prefer to let the engine shop do it. So here it is, all painted up, got the guides, everything looks new. Everything looks good. And it's ready to go back in. Now this is a narrow deck. Let me explain to you what a narrow deck and a wide deck is. This right here is the deck of the cylinder. Now, early on, Lycoming was making these narrow, right here. That's narrow. And then to compensate for that being such a thin metal, they came up with these spacers right here. So that goes right there to beef up the metal. All right. And then later on, see it's chamfered on one side. You need to make sure you get the chamfered side towards the base of the cylinder. Don't get it reversed. It'll cause damage. Anyways, later on, Lycoming widened this, and that became a wide deck. All right, so let's hang this. All right, so everything's back together. Intake, oil return tube, valve clearances are good. Bled down the valve, bled down the lifters. Got the intake or the push rod tubes back in. Everything's good. Fired it up last night. Everything's fine. So today we're gonna ride. Just want to say thank you to Plant City Engine Shop. You guys rock. Today we're gonna ride, test it out. Hopefully there's no issues. But you know, he without oil throws the first rod. So hopefully that's not me. All right, let's fire it up. Morning time fire up. Make sure it's running. Wake up the neighbors. It's time to ride. So here it is, completed cylinder, ready to go back in. Wires are tied up. I hate dangling wires. Spark plug's on. Spark plugs are tightened down. Spark plugs seem like a small thing, but I've seen spark plugs work their way out and go through that prop. Those old wooden props would just explode. Wood everywhere. It was very dramatic. Seen flip-flops, those old cheap thong flip-flops. I've seen those take out a wooden prop before too. Just explode. Those wooden props were very dangerous. These new carbon fiber props, a lot safer. But yeah, so that's that. Exhaust is on. Clamps good. Very happy. Checking for foreign objects. Make sure there's nothing in the prop well. Happy with everything. We're going to give this thing a shot today. Let's give it a run. Wake up, everybody. Time to ride.